New data show U.S. coronavirus cases are trending in the right direction. The weekly average of new infections dropped 26% in the past 2 weeks. That's down about 81% from a peak in January. The CDC reports over 105 million people in the U.S. are now fully vaccinated. Even younger Americans may soon be able to get the shot. For more, let's bring in Carl Zimmer. He writes the New York Times Matter column and is also the author of the new book, Life's Edge, the search for what it means to be alive. Carl, welcome back to Red and Blue. So how close is Pfizer in getting approval to vaccinate younger Americans?
Well, they could be within a couple weeks away from being authorized to use it on children as young as 12. And they've also just indicated that they want to go even younger, to as young as 2 by September. So they're really taking the lead. But Moderna is probably going to be ready to do something similar pretty soon as well, and maybe even Johnson & Johnson.
Well, some experts say that the U.S. is unlikely to reach herd immunity because of rising variants and vaccine hesitancy. Carl, as someone who has covered this story extensively, what does the science seem to suggest on that right now?
Well, it would have been great if we could have stopped the coronavirus really early and basically squashed it and created what's sometimes called herd immunity, in the same way that measles is just not a problem in the United States. That doesn't look like it's going to be able to happen, partly because we've allowed the virus to get so out of control, and we have these new variants that are much more transmissible. So what we can hope for is, if we can get a lot of people vaccinated, that we can drive down cases and especially hospitalizations and deaths, so that it's going to be a much, much more manageable health situation.
Well, a quickly spreading variant in India has been found here in the U.S. What do we know about it, Carl, and whether vaccines can actually protect against it?
This variant is called B.1.617. It's pretty similar to a lot of the other variants that we've already seen that are already in this country. Some of them have arisen in the United States. Some have arrived from places like the United Kingdom. It doesn't look like this one in India is particularly different than any of the others. In fact, one that's dominant now in the United States, called B.1.1.7, is much more transmissible. So, when we look to try to understand what's going on in India, why they're having this incredible spike in cases, part of the answer is new variants, several new variants. But a big part of the answer is that basically India's government completely let its guard down, went totally back to life as normal, somehow thought that they were going to get away from this pandemic the way the rest of the world hadn't. And unfortunately, that proved a really disastrous decision.
Well, Carl, as these emergency use authorized vaccines move toward formal approval from the FDA, where do employers stand regarding their authority to mandate them?
Well, because these are being given with emergency use authorization, that means that they've been accelerated because we're in the middle of a health crisis. So part of emergency use authorization is recognizing that people have the right to just decide not to take them. But once these vaccines do get full approval and a license, which should be coming fairly soon, I think you will start to see more and more companies saying, you have to be vaccinated to work here. Already we have lots of colleges who are saying, we'll see you in the fall. Please come vaccinated.
Well, as researchers continue their work, how might the next generation of vaccines, Carl, differ from the current ones we have?
So there are scientists that are really hard at work at that second wave of vaccines. There might even be a third wave eventually. We at the New York Times have a tracker where we've got about 77 vaccines that we are tracking in clinical trials, and there are many dozens more that are in preclinical trials. And so, you may see some that will be in the form of a nasal spray. Those might be particularly effective because this is a respiratory disease. There might be pills. That might be a lot more attractive to some people than getting a needle. There will be boosters. There will be vaccines that are tailored for these new variants. There are going to be all sorts of new things that are going to be going into various trials and studies. And I think within a few months, you're going to start to see more new vaccines coming into the mix.
All right, a bit of encouraging news on the horizon. Carl Zimmer for us. Carl, thank you.
Thank you.